When I was young, I could create hundreds of art styles in my imagination. The problem was not that I didn't have an art style. The problem was that I couldn't turn the art styles that existed in my head onto a piece of paper. And I got frustrated because I was seeing all those other artists on social media, in galleries and art fairs who were way better than me and were able to do that. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was able to turn whatever was in my imagination onto a piece of paper, but I stumbled upon a new problem. The art styles that I was developing didn't seem to sell and nobody wanted to pay money for it, and so as a result I started to doubt whether my art was good enough, and as a result of that I started to go into a very dark space where I was constantly criticizing every single artwork that I was making. Now what I didn't realize at that time was that I was not making the type of art that was wrong, I was making the wrong type of art. In this video I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide to find a unique art style through copying others that is guaranteed to sell. Let's go. According to my research, most artists are making art that is unique, beautiful, original, but are not making art that is designed to sell. And ideally, we want to be doing both. Original art that is selling very well. And so in this first step, we will collect artworks that are selling very well, that are inspiring us, and then we will organize them in a particular way, a smart way that we can then use to achieve our goals. Let's say your goal is to make beautiful art that will sell in galleries one day. Well, what you want to do in step one then is go to art fairs where galleries are showing their best-selling artwork, because that's what they do on galleries. And then what you want to do on those art fairs is search for art that is doing two things. Number one, art that is resonating with you, that inspires you, that you think is really beautiful. And number two, art that is priced at a very low price point that is realistic for you to tap into as a beginner artist. And then once you identify those artworks, you want to take pictures of those artworks and write down the artist, the date that the artwork was created, the age of the artist, the gallery that is representing the artist, and on top of that you also want to write down why you like the artwork so much, why it is resonating with you. And then we go to step two, where I will teach you a tiny little small trick that can be the difference between selling art for $10,000 a month and not selling art at all. It's been a few since I got it on my bike. At this point in the process, you'll likely have hundreds of artists that fit the criteria in your folder, and we will use this folder to create our amazing art style. And the powerful thing about this folder is that you can erase art block with it. You never have to sit down and think about what art you're going to make, because you can simply go to the folder, get inspired, and make art in line with that, while being guaranteed that it will sell at some point in the future. But before we can do that, we have to process the information in a very smart way, because as you will see, simply creating based on this folder, which is what most artists would do, is actually not going to get you anywhere. What you want to do is you go through the folder that you've just created, and then you scan for artists that are young and have created their art style very recently. The reason we want to do this is because if we take old artists who have invented their art style 30 years ago, they might have been benefiting from a hype that was going on during the times, perhaps an event that was going on during the times. And because that event or that hype doesn't exist anymore, you cannot get the same results. You cannot be benefiting from that same thing. By the way, the free spreadsheet software that I use to organize this research with is called Notion. Now, one thing you will notice after you've created this folder is that there are way too many art styles in this folder. There's way too much inspiration, way too many artists. And so how can you pick which artworks and which art styles to use as your inspiration source? Well, first of all, you have to understand that you don't have to incorporate everything. You don't have to create all art styles, and you don't have to use everything that inspires you. It's absolutely normal to use 5% of this folder and leave the rest just in the folder as some future inspiration potential. Art is much like a visual version of mathematics. There's one big equation of beauty going on in the world, and all artworks, all artists are a variable in that equation, and so you as an artist are only one variable and not the entire equation. On top of that, having too much art that you like, having too many things that inspire you, this overload of creative options that is oftentimes overwhelming and paralyzing, is actually not a problem, but a solution. I'll talk about this more in the next step, which might be the most important step in this 4-step process. It's a thing that all artists are afraid of because they want to make original work. They want to be unique. The thing that all artists are afraid of because they're afraid of copying somebody else's work. But ironically, it's a thing that all successful artists have done before you, and the thing that made them successful in the first place. This is going to be amazing. Let's go. At some point in my art career, I was envying other artists because they could draw anything from their imagination, while I was only able to copy things. I didn't felt original. There's this beautiful quote by Herman Melville: "It is better to fail in originality than to succeed in imitation." And this is one of my favorite quotes of all time because it sounds so amazing, but it's also complete bullshit. And Herman Melville clearly didn't know what he was talking about, because there is no such thing as originality without imitation. Every single artist that ever became original did it through imitation. The originality mindset is a trap that most artists fall into and never get out of alive. You have to stop thinking like that. You have to stop thinking that you are unique and original, because the truth is that you are not unique. You are not original. Nobody is unique and nobody is original. We are all being influenced by the times that we live in. We all think the same things, but just look at it from different perspectives. I think somewhere in the Bible there's this quote that sums it up very beautifully. That which has been is that which will be, and that which has been done is that which will be done. So there is nothing new under the sun. And so once we understand that there's nothing new under the sun, we can go towards the 3rd step and start stealing like an artist. Francis Coppola once said, "We want you to take from us. We want you at first to steal from us, because you can't steal. You will take what we give you and put it in your own voice. And that's how you will find your voice. And that's how you begin. And then one day, someone will steal from you." And so what does this mean, to steal like an artist? Well, it means that you are going into this folder and then make art that is similar to the art in this folder. And once you do that, you will see that the art that you create is similar to the art in the folder. Surprise, surprise. Now, at this moment you might be thinking, well, I'm not original because I'm just copying other artists. And there are 2 things I want to say about this. First of all, you want to be copying from many artists and not just one, because copying from one artist is called plagiarism. Copying from many artists is called research, and copying tiny little bits from many artists is called inventing your own complete unique art style. The truth is that copying is originality. The only thing unique and original about you are your preferences. Your choice of which elements to copy from which artists is your personal taste. And by copying, we express this personal taste, which is the thing that people will call unique 5 years from now. Yohji Yamamoto said it beautifully. Start copying what you love. Copy, copy, copy. At the end of the copy, you will find yourself. I personally want to add something to this as well. Start copying what you love and what sells very well, so that at the end of the copy, you not only find yourself, but you find yourself selling a lot of art. Now let's go to the final step. This is the step where you transform yourself from an artist that developed an art style that sells very well to an artist that developed an art style that writes history. At this point, you hopefully realize something very powerful. With the steps I outlined, you can create an unlimited amount of original art styles that also sell very well. And because of that, you stumble upon a new problem, namely that there are way too many art styles that you could potentially create. And so how can you decide which art styles to focus on? Let's talk about it. First of all, it's totally fine to have multiple art styles. Many artists think they should have one and focus on one so that they become an expert on one art style, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It's absolutely fine to have, for example, one art style designed to sell a lot of art and another art style designed to create that wow effect in your viewer and satisfy the artistic need of yourself. On top of that, your art style will change over time. If you look at the best artists in history, you don't see one art style, but you see multiple art styles. Picasso didn't stick to his blue period, but created other things afterwards. And the powerful thing about this is that you increase your chances of being part of the art movement that survives, because you don't control history. Some art movements that exist today will last hundreds of years, and some art movements will be forgotten throughout time. And by being part of many art movements, you increase your chances of being part of the art movements that survive. My camera broke, this is a new camera, let's go. On top of that, you have to understand that finding your art style is an ongoing process that changes over time, as I just said. And so ideally, you should be watching this video or at least do these steps again 5 years from now. And in order to get different art styles, so you don't end up with the same art style every 5 years, it's important to use different processes that get you different results. This is the 4th step in our process, and for that purpose I have a completely different video that outlines a completely different process to generate completely different art styles. I'll link it in the description and in the end screen. That said, get the hell out of here.